I found out my husband got my sister pregnant on a Tuesday morning at Greater Hope Baptist Church, right after the midweek prayer service. I was 72 years old, and I thought I'd seen everything life had to throw at me. I was wrong. My sister Claudette stood in front of the entire congregation, tears streaming down her face, and announced she was expecting. "And the father," she said, looking right at me with those guilty eyes, "is Floyd, my brother-in-law." The church went silent. Someone dropped their Bible. Pastor Williams's mouth fell open. And me? I just sat there in the third pew like always, feeling my whole world crack apart like dry earth in summer heat. My husband Floyd, the man I'd been married to for 51 years, stood up from his seat beside me and walked right up to the front. He didn't apologize. He didn't even look ashamed. He just put his arm around Claudette's shoulders and said, "It's true. We're in love. We have been for years." That's when everything went black. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how I got here. My name is Bernice Washington, and I've lived in Atlanta my whole life. I grew up in a small house on the west side with my mama, my daddy, and my baby sister Claudette. We didn't have much, but we had each other. At least, that's what I thought. Claudette was always the pretty one. 10 years younger than me, with smooth skin that glowed like honey and a smile that could light up any room. Men followed her around like bees to flowers, but she never settled down, never married, never had kids. She always said she was waiting for the right one. I married Floyd when I was 21. He worked at the Postal Service, steady job, good benefits. He wasn't the most exciting man, but he was reliable. Or so I thought. We built a life together, bought a little house in Decatur, had 3 children, Gerald, Tamika, and Andre. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Floyd became distant, cold. He started working late, going out on weekends, barely talking to me except to complain. He criticized everything I did, the way I cooked, the way I cleaned, the way I looked. "You let yourself go, Bernice," he'd say, looking at me with disgust. "No wonder I can't stand to be around you." I tried harder, cooked his favorite meals. Lost weight, bought new clothes, nothing worked. He just got meaner. The worst part? My own children sided with him. Gerald, my oldest, was 48 and worked in finance. He lived in a big house in Buckhead with his wife Valencia and their 2 kids. He barely called me, but when he did, it was always the same thing. "Mama, why do you upset Dad so much? Can't you just try to be nicer to him?" Tamika was 45, a nurse divorced with 3 teenage kids. She called me more often, but only to complain about her life and ask for money. When I told her how Floyd treated me, she'd sigh and say, "Mama, marriage is hard. You just have to deal with it. That's what wives do." Andre, my baby at 42, was the worst. He was a lawyer, successful, married to a woman named Simone, who looked down on everyone. Andre would come over for Sunday dinner, eat my food, then spend the whole time criticizing me. "Your house is outdated, Ma. You need to renovate. You're embarrassing us." They all loved their father, thought he was a saint, believed every lie he told about me being difficult, being crazy, being impossible to live with. And Claudette? She was always around. After our parents died, she became part of our family. She'd come over for holidays, help with the grandkids, sit with Floyd watching TV while I cooked in the kitchen. I thought she was being supportive. I thought she was my sister. I should have seen the signs. The way they'd stop talking when I walked into a room. The way Floyd's face would light up when Claudette arrived, even though he barely looked at me anymore. The way my sister always wore her best clothes and perfume to our house. But I trusted them. I trusted everyone. About 5 years ago, things got really bad. Floyd retired from the post office and suddenly he was home all day, making my life miserable. He'd follow me around the house complaining about everything. The dishes weren't clean enough, The floors weren't mopped right. I was too loud, too slow, too stupid. "You're worthless, Bernice," he'd say almost every day. "I don't know why I ever married you." I started having panic attacks, couldn't sleep, lost my appetite. My doctor prescribed medication for anxiety and depression, but it didn't help much. How could it, when the source of my pain was living in my house, sleeping in my bed, making every day a nightmare? My children noticed I wasn't doing well, but instead of helping, they blamed me. "You're bringing this on yourself, Mama," Gerald said. "Dad says you won't take your medication properly. You're not trying to get better." That was a lie. I took every pill, went to every appointment, did everything the doctor said. But Floyd kept telling the kids I was crazy, that I was making things up, that I was the problem. Then, about 2 years ago, Floyd started disappearing for days at a time. He'd say he was going to visit his brother in Jacksonville, or going fishing with friends, or taking trips with his retired postal worker buddies. I was so worn down by then that I was almost relieved when he left. At least I could breathe in my own house. Claudette started acting strange around that time, too. She'd cancel plans with me at the last minute, wouldn't answer my calls for days. When I'd finally reach her, she'd sound guilty, nervous, making excuses about being busy with work. She was a receptionist at a dental office, same job she'd had for 20 years. When had she ever been too busy for me? Last year, Floyd sat me down at the kitchen table and dropped a bomb. "I want a divorce," he said, cold as ice. "I can't stand being married to you anymore. You make me miserable." I was shocked, hurt, but also a tiny bit relieved. Maybe I could finally have peace. Maybe I could finally be free of his cruelty. But then he said the next part. "I want the house. You need to move out. Go live with one of the kids or something." "This is my house, too," I said, finding my voice. "We bought it together. I've lived here for 40 years. "I paid for everything," Floyd said. "I was the one working while you stayed home with the kids. This house is mine." That wasn't true. I'd worked part-time for years at the library, and I'd used my inheritance from my parents as the down payment on the house. But Floyd had convinced everyone, including our children, that he was the sole provider. I refused to leave. That's when things got really ugly. Floyd started bringing lawyers to the house, threatening me, trying to intimidate me into signing papers. He told the kids I was being unreasonable, refusing to give him what was rightfully his. Gerald actually called me selfish. Tamika said I was being stubborn. Andre threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent. "You're sick, Ma," Andre said. "All those medications you're on, they prove you can't think straight. I could have you put in a home." I was terrified. I felt so alone. My husband hated me, my children had turned against me, and now I was about to lose everything. That's when I started noticing things. Small things at first. Claudette's car parked near our house at odd hours, when Floyd was supposedly home alone. A receipt I found in Floyd's pocket from a romantic restaurant in Savannah, the same weekend he said he was on a fishing trip, and the same weekend Claudette said she was at a dental conference. Then I found the texts. Floyd had left his phone on the kitchen counter one morning. It buzzed, and I glanced at it without thinking. The message preview made my blood run cold. "I miss you so much, baby. Last night was incredible. I can't wait until we can be together all the time." The sender was listed as C. My hands shaking, I unlocked his phone. I knew his passcode, our wedding anniversary, which now felt like a cruel joke. What I found made me physically sick. Months of messages between Floyd and Claudette. Years, actually. They'd been having an affair for at least 4 years, maybe longer. The messages were graphic, romantic, full of plans for a future together. They talked about me like I was garbage they needed to throw out. "Once we get rid of Bernice, we can finally be happy," Claudette had written. "The divorce should be final soon," Floyd replied. "She's so stupid, she'll probably sign whatever papers I give her." "What about the house?" Claudette asked. It'll be mine, ours. We'll redecorate, make it beautiful, erase every trace of her. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my own phone. Then I deleted the sent messages so Floyd wouldn't know. I confronted Claudette first, the next day at her apartment. I showed her the messages on my phone. She didn't even deny it. She just shrugged, cold as stone. Floyd and I are in love, Bernie. We have been for years. You can't give him what he needs. I can. He's my husband, I said, my voice breaking. You're my sister. Not anymore, she said. When the divorce is final, Floyd and I are getting married. We're going to have the life we deserve. You're old, Bernie. You're used up. Let him go. I felt like I'd been stabbed in the heart. This was my baby sister, the girl I'd helped raise, the woman I'd loved and supported my whole life. I went home and confronted Floyd, showed him the screenshots. He didn't apologize. He didn't even look surprised that I'd found out. So you know, he said, shrugging. Good. Now we can stop pretending. Yes, I love Claudette. Yes, we're together. And yes, I want you out of my life. Our children, I started. Will understand, Floyd interrupted. They already think you're crazy. They already know you're difficult. I'll tell them you've been making up lies about me and Claudette because you're mentally unstable. They'll believe me. They always do. He was right, and that was the most painful part. When I tried to tell Gerald, he cut me off. Mama, please, don't start with your conspiracy theories. Dad warned me you might do this. You need to increase your medication. Tamika was more sympathetic, but ultimately useless. Oh, Mama, that's awful if it's true. But are you sure? Maybe you misunderstood? You have been really stressed lately. Andre was the cruelest. You're delusional. Dad would never do that. And Aunt Claudette? She's been nothing but good to this family. You're making things up for attention because you know Dad's leaving you. It's pathetic. I felt completely powerless, completely alone. Then, 2 months ago, Floyd moved out. Just packed his bags one day and left. I later found out he'd moved in with Claudette, my sister, in her apartment, living openly as a couple. Our church friends started gossiping. Some people stopped calling me. Others would call just to fish for information. Is it true Floyd left you? Is he really with Claudette? Oh, Bernice, how are you holding up? I stopped going to church. I couldn't face everyone, couldn't face their pity or their judgment. The divorce papers came. Floyd was demanding everything. The house, half my small retirement account, even the car we'd bought together. His lawyer was Andre, my own son, who had apparently agreed to represent his father against his own mother. It's just business, Ma, Andre said when I called him crying. Don't take it personally. How could I not take it personally? My son was trying to leave me homeless. I was at my lowest point. I'd stopped eating, barely slept, cried all day. I thought about ending it all. What did I have to live for? My husband was gone. My sister had betrayed me. My children had abandoned me. I had nothing. Then came that Tuesday morning at church. I'd forced myself to go to the midweek service, hoping that prayer might help. I sat in my usual pew, trying to focus on Pastor William's words about forgiveness and grace. That's when Claudette stood up during testimony time. I have something to share with my church family, she said, her voice shaking. She was wearing a loose dress, and as she stood there, I could see what I'd been too heartbroken to notice before, a small baby bump. I'm pregnant, she announced. I'm going to be a mother. The church erupted in congratulations. People clapped. Some of the older ladies shouted, Hallelujah! Claudette was 51 years old, and everyone knew she'd always wanted children, but never had them. Then she said it. The words that broke me completely. And the father is Floyd Washington, my brother-in-law. The joy died instantly. The church went dead silent. We're in love, Claudette continued, tears flowing. We have been for years. I know this is complicated, but we can't hide it anymore. This baby is a blessing. Floyd is divorcing Bernice, and then we're getting married. We're going to be a family. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My sister, my baby sister, was carrying my husband's child. They'd planned a whole future together. A baby, a marriage, a life. While I was dying inside, they were creating new life. Floyd stood up and joined her at the front. He wrapped his arm around her protectively, possessively. He looked happier than I'd seen him in decades. "It's true," he said to the congregation. "Claudette and I are together. We're having a baby. I know some of you will judge us, but we don't care. We love each other." He didn't even glance at me, didn't acknowledge that I was sitting right there, his wife of 51 years, being publicly humiliated in front of our entire church community. That's when the room started spinning. I heard someone scream my name. Might have been Sister Eunice, who sat next to me. Then everything went black. I woke up in the hospital 3 hours later. Gerald was there looking annoyed, not concerned, annoyed. "Mama, you made a scene," he said, "passing out in church like that. Everyone's talking about it. Dad's embarrassed." "Your father got my sister pregnant," I said weakly. "And I'm the embarrassment?" "They're in love, Mama. Yes, the situation is messy, but they're happy. Can't you just be happy for them? Aunt Claudette has always wanted to be a mother." I stared at my son in disbelief. "She's having a baby with my husband." "Your soon-to-be ex-husband," Gerald corrected. "Look, I know this is hard for you, but you need to accept reality. Sign the divorce papers. Move on with your life. Stop fighting Dad on the house and the assets. You're just making things harder for everyone." That's when I realized something. All 3 of my children knew. They'd known about the affair, probably for years, and they'd all chosen Floyd's side. They'd probably known about the pregnancy, too. My own children had betrayed me just like my husband and sister had. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out of my hospital room. Now." Gerald left, shaking his head like I was being unreasonable. I lay in that hospital bed, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. The nurse came in to check my vitals, a kind young woman named Destiny. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Washington?" she asked gently. "Like my life is over," I said honestly. Destiny sat on the edge of my bed, which I'm sure she wasn't supposed to do. "Can I tell you something?" I nodded. "Whatever you're going through, it's not the end. I can see you're heartbroken. I can see you're lost. But you're still here. You're still breathing. That means your story isn't over." "I have nothing left," I said. "No one." "Then you have everything to gain," Destiny said, "and nothing left to lose." Her words struck something deep inside me. She was right. I had nothing left to lose. Floyd had taken everything. My dignity, my family, my peace. But he hadn't taken my life. Not yet. I was discharged from the hospital the next day. I went home to my empty house, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt anger. Pure, white-hot anger. My husband and sister had destroyed my life. My children had abandoned me. They all thought I was weak, broken, too old and stupid to fight back. They were wrong. I sat at my kitchen table and made a list of everything I knew. The affair, the financial manipulation, the way Floyd had isolated me, the way my children had been turned against me, the lies, the cruelty, all of it. Then I made a second list, people who might help me. It was a short list, very short. But it was a start. I thought about something my mama used to say. "Baby, when folks think you're down for the count, that's when you get up swinging." It was time to start swinging. I picked up my phone and made the first call. To a lawyer, not Andre, obviously, but someone else. Someone who'd been at that church service and had seen exactly what Floyd and Claudette did to me. His name was Leonard Hayes, a member of our church who specialized in family law. I'd never spoken to him much before, but I'd heard he was good, fair, honest. "Mr. Hayes," I said when he answered, "this is Bernice Washington. I need help, and I need someone who won't back down from a fight." There was a pause, then, "Mrs. Washington, I was hoping you'd call. I've been thinking about what happened at church, what they did to you, how they humiliated you publicly. Can you help me?" "Yes, ma'am, I can. And I will. Come to my office tomorrow morning. Bring any documentation you have, bank statements, property documents, those text messages you mentioned to Sister Eunice. Everything." For the first time in months, I felt hope. "They think I'm going to just disappear quietly," I said. "Let them have everything." "Are you?" Leonard asked. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not." "Good," Leonard said. "Because Mrs. Washington, by the time we're done, Floyd and everyone who betrayed you are going to regret the day they underestimated you." I hung up the phone and looked around my kitchen, the kitchen I'd cooked in for 40 years, raised my children in, built my life in. Floyd wanted to take it from me. Give it to Claudette. Erase me like I'd never existed. Not if I had anything to say about it. The next morning I went to Leonard Hayes' office with a folder full of documents. Bank statements showing Floyd had been secretly moving money out of our joint accounts. The text messages proving the affair had been going on for years. Property records showing I'd put the down payment on our house using my inheritance. Leonard looked through everything carefully, his expression growing darker with each page. "Mrs. Washington," he said finally, "your husband and his lawyer, your son, have been committing fraud. They've been hiding assets, manipulating financial records, and planning to leave you with nothing. Can we stop them?" "We can do better than stop them," Leonard said, a slight smile crossing his face. "We can make them pay. Every single one of them." "Even Andre?" I asked quietly. "He's my son. He's representing his father in a fraudulent divorce case against his own mother," Leonard said gently. "He's not acting like your son. He's acting like Floyd's accomplice. If you want to fight back, we'll have to go after everyone involved, including him." I thought about Andre, my baby boy, the child I'd nursed, raised, loved, sacrificed for. The man who was now trying to have me declared incompetent so his father could steal everything I owned. "Do it," I said. "Whatever it takes." Leonard nodded. "Then let's begin." Over the next 2 weeks, Leonard and I built a case. We documented everything: the affair, the financial manipulation, the abuse. We found witnesses who'd seen Floyd and Claudette together over the years. We got medical records showing my anxiety and depression had started only after Floyd's behavior became cruel. We even found proof that Floyd had been planning this divorce for years, slowly moving assets and preparing to leave me with nothing. But Leonard saved the best discovery for last. He called me into his office 2 weeks after we'd started working together, his eyes shining with something that looked like triumph. "Mrs. Washington," he said, "I found something." "Something big. What is it?" "Remember how you said you used your inheritance to make the down payment on the house?" "Yes, $20,000 from my parents' estate. Do you have proof of that?" I nodded. "I have the bank records, the transfer documents, everything." "Perfect," Leonard said. "Because according to Georgia law, any property purchased with separate funds, like an inheritance, remains separate property even in a marriage. That down payment means you have a significant ownership stake in that house. Floyd can't just take it from you." I felt tears spring to my eyes. "Really?" "Really, and there's more. I found out that Floyd took out a second mortgage on the house 3 years ago without your knowledge or signature. That's illegal. He forged your name on the documents." "He forged my signature?" "Yes, ma'am. And he used that money, $50,000. For what?" Leonard slid a paper across the desk. It was a bank statement for an account I'd never seen before. an account in Floyd's name only, and transfers. Dozens of transfers to Claudette. Thousands of dollars over 3 years. He was funding her life, I whispered, while telling me we couldn't afford things, while making me feel guilty for spending money on groceries. Exactly, Leonard said. Mrs. Washington, your husband has been committing financial abuse, fraud, and theft. And his lawyer, your son, either doesn't know about it, which makes him incompetent, or does know about it, which makes him complicit in a crime. What do? We file a countersuit. We demand a full financial audit. We expose everything, and we make sure Floyd doesn't get 1 red cent of your assets. In fact, if we play this right, we might be able to get you everything. Everything? The house, the retirement accounts, alimony, damages for emotional distress. All of it. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed. I never wanted to destroy him. I just wanted him to leave me alone. I understand, Leonard said kindly. But Mrs. Washington, Floyd hasn't been trying to leave you alone. He's been trying to destroy you. He's been stealing from you, abusing you, manipulating your children against you, and planning to leave you homeless. That's not divorce. That's malicious destruction. He was right. I knew he was right. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Let's fight back. The countersuit was filed 3 days later. Floyd's reaction was immediate and explosive. He called me, screaming into the phone. What the hell do you think you're doing, Bernice? You can't fight this. You don't have the money for lawyers. You don't have any proof. I have plenty of proof, Floyd, I said calmly, including proof that you forged my signature on mortgage documents and stole $50,000 from our home equity. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Who told you that? He finally asked, his voice small. Does it matter? What matters is that I know. The court knows. And soon everyone will know exactly what kind of man you are. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email, Floyd. Leonard Hayes sent the evidence to your lawyer this morning. All of it. The forged documents, the secret bank accounts, the money you gave to Claudette. Everything. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end of the line. You're going to regret this, he said. No, Floyd, I replied. You're going to regret underestimating me. I hung up. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was Andre. Ma, what the hell? He shouted. You're accusing Dad of fraud? Of forgery? Do you know what this could do to him? To his reputation? Do you know what he did to me? I shot back. He stole from me, Andre. He forged my name. He committed crimes. And you, as his lawyer, either knew about it or were too incompetent to find out. Either way, you should be ashamed. I'm dropping the case, Andre said stiffly. I can't represent Dad anymore. This is a conflict of interest. Smart choice, I said. Maybe you should have thought about conflicts of interest before you agreed to represent your father against your mother. You're vindictive, Andre said. This isn't about justice. This is about revenge. Maybe it's both, I said. Maybe I deserve both. He hung up on me. Tamika called next, crying. Mama, why are you doing this? Can't you just let Dad go? This is tearing the family apart. The family was already torn apart, baby, I said sadly. I'm just the last one to realize it. Gerald didn't call at all. He sent a text. You're making a mistake. Don't expect any of us to support you through this. I replied, I stopped expecting anything from any of you a long time ago. The next few weeks were chaos. Floyd hired a new lawyer, an expensive one from downtown Atlanta. Claudette, suddenly worried about her own involvement, hired a lawyer too. They were fighting Leonard's claims, denying everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. The court ordered a full financial audit. A forensic accountant went through everything, every bank account, every transaction, every document. What they found was even worse than we'd thought. Floyd hadn't just stolen $50,000. Over the course of our marriage, he'd diverted nearly $200,000 from our joint accounts into secret accounts and cash payments to Claudette. Money I'd thought was going to retirement savings, to the kids' college funds, to home repairs. Money that was rightfully half mine. He'd been systematically robbing me for years. The court date was set for 3 months away. In the meantime, Floyd was ordered to stop all contact with our joint assets and to move out of Claudette's apartment, since it created a conflict of interest in the case. He was forbidden from seeing Claudette until after the trial. That last part was a gift from the judge, a stern woman named Judge Althea Morrison, who'd looked at the evidence and made her feelings clear. "Mr. Washington," she'd said in court, "you will refrain from contact with Ms. Claudette Hartley until this matter is resolved. Your behavior has been reprehensible, and I will not allow you to further manipulate this situation." Floyd had looked like he might explode, but he'd nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." As we left the courthouse that day, Floyd cornered me in the parking lot. Claudette was there too, her pregnant belly now obvious under her coat. They both looked furious. "You're going to lose," Floyd hissed. "All you're doing is making yourself look bitter and pathetic." "Am I?" I said calmly. "Because from where I'm standing, I'm about to get everything that's rightfully mine. Plus damages. Plus probably alimony for the rest of your life. The judge said your behavior was reprehensible, Floyd. That's not good for your case." Claudette stepped forward, her hand on her belly. "How can you do this?" she cried. "I'm pregnant. This stress isn't good for the baby. Don't you care about your niece or nephew?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since this nightmare began. I saw a selfish woman who'd betrayed her own sister for a man. A woman who was now trying to use her pregnancy as a weapon. "That baby," I said quietly, "is not my niece or nephew. You stopped being my sister the day you decided to sleep with my husband. And that baby is going to grow up knowing his or her mother destroyed a family. That's on you, Claudette, not me." "You're heartless," Claudette said, tears flowing. "No," I replied. "I'm just done being the only person in this family with a heart." I walked away, leaving them standing in the parking lot. Leonard was waiting by his car, a proud smile on his face. "That was beautifully done, Mrs. Washington." "I'm tired of being walked on," I said. "You don't have to be anymore," Leonard said. "You have power now, you have truth on your side, and you have the law protecting you." As we drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Strong. Capable. Worthy. Floyd thought he could destroy me and walk away with everything. He was about to learn the hardest lesson of his life. You don't underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose. The trial was 3 months away, but I knew those 3 months would change everything. For better or worse, my life would never be the same. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly know, was that the day before the trial was set to begin, Claudette would call me in hysterics. "Bernie," she sobbed into the phone, using the nickname she hadn't used in years. "Bernie, please, I need your help. Something's happened. Something terrible. Floyd, oh God, Bernie, please." And despite everything she'd done to me, despite all the pain and betrayal, I found myself saying the words I'd sworn I'd never say to her again. "I'm coming." I sat in my car outside Claudette's apartment for 5 minutes before I could make myself go inside. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Why was I here? This woman had destroyed my life. She was carrying my husband's baby. She'd helped Floyd steal from me, lie to me, humiliate me in front of our entire church. But she was also my baby sister, the little girl I'd braided hair for every morning before school, the teenager I'd stayed up with when she had her heart broken for the first time, the woman I'd loved for 51 years before she betrayed me. I got out of the car and walked to her door. She opened it before I could knock, her face swollen from crying, her pregnant belly prominent under a stained nightgown. She looked terrible, hair uncombed, eyes red and puffy, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Bernie," she sobbed, reaching for me. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. What happened, Claudette? Why did you call me? Can we please sit down? She asked, her voice breaking. Please? Against my better judgment, I followed her inside. The apartment was a mess, dishes piled in the sink, clothes scattered everywhere, empty food containers on the coffee table. This wasn't like Claudette. She'd always been neat, almost obsessively so. We sat on her couch, an uncomfortable distance between us. Talk, I said. Claudette took a shaky breath. Floyd left me. I stared at her. What? 2 days ago. He packed all his things and left. Said he couldn't do this anymore. Said he made a mistake. The tears started flowing again. Bernie, I'm 5 months pregnant. He left me pregnant and alone. Part of me, the hurt, angry part, wanted to laugh, wanted to say, now you know how it feels. But I couldn't. Despite everything, seeing her broken like this didn't give me the satisfaction I thought it would. Where did he go? I asked. I don't know. He won't answer my calls. His phone goes straight to voicemail. I went to Gerald's house to ask if he'd heard from his father, and Gerald told me Floyd doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. That Floyd said I was too much drama and he needed space. Gerald knew where he was? All of them know, Claudette said bitterly. Gerald, Tamika, Andre. They've been helping him hide from me, from the court, from everyone. My blood ran cold. What do you mean, hide from the court? Claudette wiped her eyes and looked at me with something that might have been shame. The trial is supposed to start tomorrow, right? Floyd's not going to be there. He left town, Bernie. Gerald helped him move his money to offshore accounts. Andre told him how to disappear without violating the court order technically. And Tamika, she laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Tamika told me to my face that I got what I deserved. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My children, all 3 of them, had helped Floyd flee, had helped him hide assets and avoid justice. They were all in on it together. There's more, Claudette said quietly. Things I need to tell you. Things I should have told you a long time ago. I don't want to hear. Please, Bernie, please, you need to know the truth. All of it. Something in her voice made me stay, made me listen. The affair didn't just happen, Claudette began. Floyd planned it. He pursued me deliberately about 6 years ago. He told me you were mentally ill, that you'd stopped being a real wife to him, that you were making his life miserable. He said he needed someone to talk to, someone who understood him. I felt sick, but said nothing. I believed him, Claudette continued. God help me, I believed every word. He was so convincing, Bernie. So charming. He made me feel special, wanted, needed. And I was lonely. I'd never found anyone, never had a family of my own. Floyd offered me everything I'd ever wanted. So you took it, I said coldly. You took my husband. Yes, she admitted. I did. And I convinced myself it was okay, because Floyd said you didn't love him anymore. He said you'd both been unhappy for years. He made it sound like I was saving him from a terrible situation. That's a lie. I loved him. I tried everything to make him happy. I know that now, Claudette said, her voice cracking. Bernie, Floyd told me so many lies about you. He said you were stealing money from the joint accounts. He said you were having an affair with a man from church. He said you'd hit him during arguments. None of it was true, was it? No, I whispered. None of it. I believed him. The kids believed him. He's been lying to all of us for years, turning us all against you. Claudette put her face in her hands. He used me, Bernie. He used me to hurt you, and I was too stupid and selfish to see it. Why are you telling me this now? Claudette looked up, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Because 3 days ago, Floyd came back here drunk. We fought about the trial, about the money, about everything. He was angry, so angry. And he said... She stopped, struggling to continue. What did he say? He said he never loved me, that I was just a tool to get back at you, that you'd stopped putting out years ago and he needed someone available. He said I was convenient. Claudette's voice dropped to almost a whisper. He said the baby was a mistake, that he wanted me to get rid of it. When I refused, he told me I'd ruined everything. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. See? He's a monster. You chose a monster over your own sister. But another part of me just felt sad. Sad for both of us. Two women destroyed by the same cruel man. That's when he hit me, Claudette said. My head snapped up. He what? He hit me, Bernie, slapped me across the face. Then he grabbed my arm so hard he left bruises. She pulled up her sleeve, showing me dark purple fingerprints on her upper arm. He said if I tried to testify against him in court, if I told anyone about the money or the affair timeline, he'd make sure I lost everything. The baby, my job, my apartment. Everything. I stared at those bruises, feeling rage build inside me like a thunderstorm. Floyd had hurt my sister, pregnant with his child, and he'd hurt her. Did you call the police? I asked. No, I was too scared. He said no one would believe me anyway, that everyone thinks I'm a homewrecker who got what she deserved. Claudette looked at me with desperate eyes. Bernie, I know I don't deserve your help. I know I destroyed your life, but I'm scared. I'm scared of what Floyd might do. I'm scared for my baby, and you're the only person I can trust. Trust? The word came out harsh. You betrayed me, Claudette. You slept with my husband. You helped him steal from me. You humiliated me in front of our church. And now you want me to trust you? No, Claudette said quietly. I want you to be the bigger person. Because I know you are. You always have been. Even when I was terrible to you, you were good to me. That's who you are, Bernie. You're good. I wanted to walk out, wanted to leave her alone with her consequences. But I couldn't. Because she was right about one thing. I was still the same woman who'd braided her hair and protected her from bullies and helped her with her homework. That woman was still inside me, underneath all the hurt and anger. I'll help you, I said finally. Not because you deserve it, but because that baby does. That innocent baby doesn't deserve any of this. Claudette started crying again, but this time with relief. Thank you, Bernie. But we're doing this my way, I continued firmly. First, you're going to the hospital to document those injuries. Then you're filing a police report. Then you're calling my lawyer, Leonard Hayes, and you're going to tell him everything you know about Floyd's plans. Everything. But Floyd said, Floyd is a liar and an abuser, I interrupted. And he's about to learn that he can't control everyone. Are you with me or not? Claudette nodded slowly. I'm with you. We went to the hospital first. The emergency room doctor, a kind older man named Dr. Okonkwo, examined Claudette's bruises and documented everything. He also did an ultrasound to make sure the baby was okay. I stood outside the curtain, listening to the rapid heartbeat on the monitor, feeling a confusing mix of emotions. The baby looks healthy, Dr. Okonkwo said. But Ms. Hartley, you need to stay away from whoever did this to you. Stress and violence during pregnancy can have serious consequences. I will, Claudette promised. My sister is helping me. When we left the hospital, we went straight to the police station. Claudette filed a report for domestic violence and assault. The officer who took her statement, a young black woman named Officer Jenkins, was sympathetic and thorough. Do you know where Mr. Washington is currently staying? Officer Jenkins asked. No, Claudette admitted. He's been hiding, but his children might know. Gerald Washington, Tamika Parker, and Andre Washington. Officer Jenkins wrote down their names. We'll look into it. In the meantime, I'm issuing an emergency protective order. Mr. Washington is not allowed within 500 feet of you. If he contacts you or comes near you, call 911 immediately. As we left the police station, I called Leonard Hayes. It was late, almost 9 p.m., but he answered immediately. Mrs. Washington, is everything all right? Mr. Hayes, I'm with my sister Claudette. We need to meet with you first thing tomorrow morning, before the trial. She has information you need to hear." There was a pause. "Your sister? The one who—" "Yes," I said. "That one. Things have changed. She's ready to tell the truth about everything." "I'll be in my office at 7 a.m., Leonard said. "Bring her." That night, Claudette stayed at my house. My house, the one Floyd wanted to steal. She slept in the guest room, and I lay awake in my bed, wondering if I was making a mistake. Wondering if this was another manipulation. Wondering if I could really trust her. But when I checked on her before going to sleep, I saw her curled up on the bed, one hand on her pregnant belly, tears still streaming down her face even in sleep. She looked like the little girl I remembered, vulnerable, scared, lost. Maybe people could change. Maybe it wasn't too late for redemption. Or maybe I was just a fool. The next morning, we met Leonard at his office at 7 a.m. sharp. He looked surprised to see Claudette's condition. The pregnancy was obvious now, and the bruises on her arm had turned darker overnight. "Ms. Hartley," Leonard said carefully, "I understand you have information about Floyd Washington's activities." "I do," Claudette said. She looked at me, and I nodded encouragingly. "I want to tell you everything. About the affair, about the money, about his plans. All of it." For the next hour, Claudette talked. She told Leonard about how Floyd had been planning the divorce for years, how he'd deliberately turned the children against me, how he'd forged documents and moved money, how he'd convinced her to lie about dates and timelines to make the affair look more recent than it was, how Gerald had helped set up offshore accounts, how Andre had advised Floyd on legal loopholes, how Tamika had provided alibis when Floyd needed them. Leonard recorded everything, his expression growing darker with each revelation. "Ms. Hartley," he said when she finished, "are you willing to testify to all of this in court? Under oath?" Claudette looked terrified, but nodded. "Yes. Floyd threatened me, hurt me, and abandoned me. He's a monster. Bernie tried to warn me, and I didn't listen. But I'm listening now." "Your testimony could change everything," Leonard said. "Mrs. Washington's case was already strong, but with your corroboration, it becomes airtight. Floyd won't just lose the divorce case. He could face criminal charges. So could your nephew Andre if he knowingly participated in the fraud." "Good," Claudette said firmly. "They all deserve it." We left Leonard's office and headed to the courthouse. The trial was set to begin at 10 a.m. As we walked up the courthouse steps, I saw Gerald, Tamika, and Andre standing together near the entrance. They looked shocked to see Claudette with me. "Mama, what is she doing here?" Gerald demanded. "She's here to testify," I said calmly. "About everything." Andre's face went pale. "Testify about what?" "About the truth," Claudette said, her voice stronger than I'd heard it in days. "About how your father has been lying to everyone. About how you all helped him." "You can't do this," Tamika said, looking panicked. "Aunt Claudette, think about your baby. The stress." "Don't you dare use my baby as leverage," Claudette snapped. "Your father beat me while I was pregnant. He told me to get rid of this child. And you all knew he was planning to abandon me, didn't you? You knew and you helped him." The guilty looks on their faces told me everything I needed to know. "Where is your father?" I asked coldly. "He's not coming," Gerald admitted. "His new lawyer advised him not to show up." "That's going to look terrible for him," Leonard said, appearing behind us. "Failure to appear at your own divorce trial? The judge is going to rule in Mrs. Washington's favor by default. And when we present evidence of his flight to avoid justice, it's going to get much worse for him." "This is your fault," Andre said, pointing at me. "You turned Aunt Claudette against Dad. You poisoned her mind." "No, Andre," I said sadly. "Your father did that all by himself. I'm just the one who's finally holding him accountable." We walked past them into the courthouse. I could hear them arguing behind us, their voices rising in panic. Inside the courtroom, Judge Morrison looked displeased when she saw Floyd's empty chair. "Where is the respondent?" she asked sharply. Floyd's new lawyer, a nervous man named Mr. Pemberton, stood up. "Your Honor, Mr. Washington is unable to attend today due to illness." "Illness?" Judge Morrison's eyebrow rose. "Does Mr. Washington have a doctor's note?" "Not at this time, Your Honor." "I see." Judge Morrison looked at Leonard. "Mr. Hayes, does the petitioner wish to proceed?" "Yes, Your Honor, and we have a new witness who has critical testimony about Mr. Washington's conduct and financial activities." "Very well. Let's begin." The trial was unlike anything I'd expected. Leonard presented all the evidence methodically: the forged documents, the secret accounts, the money transfers to Claudette, the text messages proving the affair had been ongoing for years, not months. Then he called Claudette to the stand. Claudette testified for almost 2 hours. She told the court everything: the affair, Floyd's manipulation, the lies about me, the financial fraud, the children's involvement, the assault. She showed the court her bruises. She cried as she described how Floyd had told her the baby was a mistake. Gerald, Tamika, and Andre sat in the gallery, looking progressively more horrified as Claudette's testimony destroyed their father's case and their reputations. When Leonard finished questioning Claudette, Mr. Pemberton tried to cross-examine her, but he had nothing. Every claim she made was backed up by evidence: texts, bank records, medical reports, police reports. Finally, Judge Morrison called for a recess. We waited in the hallway, Claudette sitting beside me, exhausted from the emotional testimony. "You did good," I told her quietly. "I'm sorry," she said for the 100th time. "I'm so sorry for everything, Bernie." "I know," I said, and I meant it. I could see her remorse was genuine. Whether I could ever forgive her completely was another question, but I could see she was trying. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Morrison had made her decision. "I have reviewed all the evidence presented today," she began, "and I am deeply disturbed by what I've seen. Mr. Washington's failure to appear, combined with the testimony and evidence presented, paints a picture of a man who has systematically abused, defrauded, and manipulated his wife for years. The forged documents alone are grounds for criminal prosecution. The assault on Ms. Hartley while she was pregnant with his child is unconscionable." I held my breath. "Therefore, I am ruling in favor of Mrs. Bernice Washington. She is awarded full ownership of the marital home, all retirement accounts, and alimony in the amount of $3,000 per month for the rest of Mr. Washington's life. Additionally, Mr. Washington is ordered to pay restitution for the funds he fraudulently diverted, $200,000 plus interest. I am also referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal charges of fraud, forgery, and domestic violence." The courtroom erupted. Gerald stood up, shouting, "This is insane! You can't do this!" "Sit down, Mr. Washington," Judge Morrison said sternly. "And I suggest you consult with an ethics attorney about your involvement in your father's financial schemes. If I discover that you, as a licensed attorney, knowingly participated in fraud, I will personally report you to the state bar." Andre sank back into his seat, his face ashen. "Court is adjourned," Judge Morrison said, banging her gavel. I sat there, stunned. I'd won. I'd actually won. Leonard shook my hand, beaming. "Congratulations, Mrs. Washington. Justice was served today." Claudette hugged me tightly, and for the first time, I hugged her back. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me a chance to do the right thing." As we left the courtroom, reporters were waiting outside. Somehow the story had gotten out. Elderly woman defrauded by husband and his own children, saved by the sister who'd betrayed her. It was the kind of story people couldn't resist. Gerald, Tamika, and Andre tried to sneak out a side entrance, but the reporters caught them. I heard Gerald shouting, "No comment! Leave us alone!" That night, I sat in my kitchen, in my house, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, genuine peace. Claudette had gone back to her apartment with a protective order and a promise that she'd check in with me daily. The baby was due in 4 months. We'd have to figure out what our relationship would look like after everything that had happened, but at least we were talking. At least she was trying. Leonard called around 8 p.m. "Mrs. Washington, I have news. The police found Floyd." My heart jumped. "Where?" "He was hiding at a motel near the airport. Apparently he was planning to flee to Mexico tomorrow morning. The police arrested him on the outstanding warrant for domestic violence and on the court's order for failing to appear at the trial." "So he's in jail?" "Yes, ma'am. And given his flight risk, I doubt he'll be granted bail. Mrs. Washington, you did it. You won." After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd been ready to give up, ready to let Floyd take everything and just disappear. I'd felt worthless, broken, powerless. But I'd fought back. I'd found my strength. I'd taken my life back. The house phone rang, startling me. I answered it cautiously. "Hello? Mama?" It was Tamika, her voice small and broken. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know Dad was doing all those things. I thought you were just being difficult. I thought he was the victim. But after today, after hearing everything..." She was crying now. "I'm so sorry. I failed you. I chose Dad over you, and I was wrong." I closed my eyes, feeling tears slip down my own cheeks. "Why didn't you believe me, Tamika? When I told you what he was doing, why didn't you believe your own mother?" "Because it was easier to believe him," Tamika admitted. "Because if what you said was true, that meant our whole family was a lie. That meant Dad wasn't who we thought he was. It was easier to think you were exaggerating, that you were sick, than to face the truth. And now? Now I see the truth, and I hate myself for what I did to you. Mama, can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it, really thought about it. Tamika had hurt me deeply, but she was my daughter, and she was trying. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "But I'm willing to try, if you're willing to really change, to really see me and respect me." "I am," Tamika promised. "I swear I am." "Then we'll see," I said. "We'll take it one day at a time." After we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. One of my children was coming back to me. Maybe eventually the others would too, or maybe they wouldn't. Either way, I'd be okay. I was just getting ready for bed when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll make sure you regret ever crossing me. You and that traitor sister of yours. Watch your back." Floyd. It had to be Floyd, somehow messaging from jail. I stared at the text, feeling a chill run down my spine. But then I did something I wouldn't have been able to do a year ago. I screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Leonard Hayes, to Officer Jenkins, and to the district attorney's office. Then I blocked the number. Floyd was still trying to control me, intimidate me, make me afraid. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I was Bernice Washington. I'd survived 51 years of marriage to a cruel man. I'd survived betrayal by my own family. I'd survived being left with nothing. And I was still standing. Whatever Floyd tried next, I'd be ready. But what I wasn't ready for, what I couldn't possibly have expected, was the call I received 2 weeks later from a woman who claimed to be Floyd's first wife. A wife I never knew existed. Her name was Loretta Hayes, and she called me on a Thursday afternoon while I was having tea with Sister Eunice from church. "Mrs. Washington?" the woman asked when I answered. "Mrs. Bernice Washington, married to Floyd Washington?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "Who is this?" "My name is Loretta Hayes. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I was married to Floyd Washington from 1968 to 1971. We never officially divorced." I nearly dropped the phone. Sister Eunice grabbed my arm, mouthing, "What's wrong?" "What do you mean, you never divorced?" I asked, my voice shaking. Floyd and I got married in Alabama when we were young, Loretta explained. We were both 19. The marriage was terrible. He was controlling, verbally abusive, took all my money. After 3 years, I left him. Packed my bags one day while he was at work and moved to Chicago. I filed for divorce, but Floyd never signed the papers. He just disappeared from my life, so I thought it went through automatically. But it didn't? No. I found out about a month ago when I tried to apply for Social Security benefits. They told me I was still legally married to Floyd Washington. When I started looking into it, I saw the news about his arrest in Atlanta. I saw your name. Mrs. Washington, if Floyd and I never legally divorced, that means his marriage to you isn't valid, I finished, my mind reeling. Our marriage was never legal. I'm so sorry, Loretta said. I had no idea he'd gone and married someone else. I would have said something years ago if I'd known. After I hung up, I immediately called Leonard Hayes. He listened to everything, then was silent for a long moment. Mrs. Washington, he said finally, if this is true, it changes everything. It means Floyd committed bigamy. It means your marriage was never legal, which actually works in your favor. How? Because everything you accumulated during your marriage was never really marital property. That house you bought with your inheritance? Completely yours. The money Floyd stole? He stole it from you personally, not from a joint marital asset. This makes his crimes even worse. And the best part? If you were never legally married, he has no claim to anything of yours. Nothing. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. After everything Floyd had put me through, after all his schemes and manipulations, he'd made one crucial mistake 50 years ago. He'd never bothered to legally end his first marriage. Mr. Hayes, I said, still laughing, can we use this in court? Oh, we're definitely using this in court, Leonard said. I'll contact Mrs. Hayes immediately and get her testimony. Mrs. Washington, Floyd just handed us the final nail for his coffin. The bigamy revelation hit the news like a bomb. Suddenly, Floyd wasn't just a man who'd defrauded his wife. He was a criminal who'd been illegally married for over 50 years. The district attorney added bigamy charges to the fraud, forgery, and domestic violence charges Floyd was already facing. Loretta Hayes agreed to testify. She flew down from Chicago, and I met her for coffee the day before the criminal trial began. She was 73, a year older than me, with silver hair and kind eyes. We sat across from each other at a little cafe in Midtown, two women whose lives had been ruined by the same man. I'm sorry for what he did to you, Loretta said. When I saw your picture in the news, saw how exhausted and hurt you looked, I saw myself 50 years ago. Floyd broke something in me back then. It took me years to rebuild. Did you ever remarry? I asked. No, I dated, but I never trusted anyone enough to marry again. What about you? I mean, obviously you thought you were married, but did you have a good life? I thought about it. Parts of it were good. My children, before he turned them against me. My work at the library. My church family. But Floyd? No. Floyd made my life hell, especially these last few years. He wanted to make us small, Loretta said. That's what men like Floyd do. They find strong women and spend years trying to break them down until there's nothing left. But we're still here, Bernice. We survived him. We held hands across the table, two survivors of the same monster. The criminal trial started the following Monday. Floyd looked terrible, pale, thin, angry. He glared at me from across the courtroom like I was the villain in this story, like I was the one who'd destroyed his life. Loretta testified first. She brought the original marriage certificate from Alabama, the divorce papers Floyd had never signed, and documentation showing that despite her best efforts, the marriage had never been legally dissolved. So, Mrs. Hayes, the prosecutor said, to be clear, you and Mr. Washington are still legally married? Yes, sir. We are. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Floyd's lawyer looked sick. Then Claudette testified again, this time with even more detail about the fraud, the abuse, and Floyd's confession that he'd only used her to hurt me. She was 8 months pregnant now, her belly huge, and she looked exhausted. But she held her head high as she told the jury everything. When it was my turn to testify, I told my story from beginning to end. 51 years of marriage that wasn't really a marriage. Years of emotional abuse, financial control, and systematic destruction of my spirit. The affair with my sister. The theft of $200,000. The plan to leave me homeless. All of it. "Mrs. Washington," the prosecutor asked, "why didn't you leave him earlier?" "Because I loved him," I said simply. "And because he'd convinced me that I was the problem. That if I just tried harder, did better, was better, he'd love me again. It took me 51 years to realize that the problem was never me. The problem was him." Gerald, Andre, and Tamika were all called as witnesses. The prosecutor questioned them about their involvement in hiding Floyd's assets and helping him avoid court. Gerald and Andre both invoked their Fifth Amendment rights, refusing to answer on the grounds that it might incriminate them. Tamika, however, told the truth. She admitted she'd provided alibis for Floyd when he was with Claudette. She admitted she'd known about the affair for 2 years and had said nothing. She cried through her whole testimony, apologizing to me repeatedly. The trial lasted 3 weeks. In the end, the jury took only 4 hours to reach their verdict. Guilty on all counts: bigamy, fraud, forgery, theft, domestic violence, all of it. Floyd was sentenced to 12 years in prison. At 76 years old, he'd likely die behind bars. The judge also ordered him to pay me $350,000 in restitution, the stolen money plus damages. Since Floyd had no assets left after Gerald had helped him hide everything, the judge ordered Gerald's offshore accounts frozen and seized to pay the restitution. Gerald was also disbarred for his participation in the fraud scheme. Andre was suspended from practicing law for 5 years, pending an ethics investigation. Both of them lost their careers because they'd chosen to help their father destroy their mother. As Floyd was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. His eyes were full of hate, but also something else. Fear. He was finally facing consequences for his actions, and he was terrified. "I hope you're happy," he spat at me as the bailiffs pulled him away. "I am," I said calmly. "For the first time in 51 years, I really am." After the trial, things started to fall into place. The civil case was also resolved in my favor. Since Floyd and I were never legally married, I was awarded full ownership of everything: the house, all the retirement accounts, everything. The court also ruled that the $3,000 per month in alimony still stood, though Floyd would be paying it from prison wages, which meant I'd probably never see most of it. But that was okay. I didn't need his money anymore. Loretta Hayes and I became friends. She decided to finally file for a legal divorce from Floyd now that she knew where he was. She also reconnected with her own children, who she'd lost touch with years ago. We'd have lunch once a month, 2 women who'd survived the same storm. Claudette had her baby in late November, a beautiful little girl she named Grace. "Because that's what you showed me," Claudette said when she told me the name. "Grace I didn't deserve." Our relationship was still complicated. I'd forgiven her, but trust was harder to rebuild. Still, I'd visit her and baby Grace once a week. Watch my niece, or was she my niece? The relationships were so tangled now. Play with her toys and smile. That baby was innocent in all this. She deserved love. Claudette had also filed a lawsuit against Floyd for child support and damages from the assault. With Floyd in prison, she'd likely never see much money, but the court ordered his Social Security benefits garnished once he was eligible. It was something. Tamika and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. She came over for dinner once a week, bringing her 3 teenagers. She helped me redecorate the house, paint the walls, make it feel like mine instead of like a museum, to a marriage that had never been real. She apologized constantly, and I had to keep telling her that I'd forgiven her, but we needed to move forward, not keep living in the past. Gerald and Andre refused to speak to me. They blamed me for everything: their father's imprisonment, their destroyed careers, their public humiliation. Gerald's wife, Valencia, filed for divorce, taking the kids. Andre's wife, Simone, stood by him, but their lives were ruined financially. Part of me felt bad for them, but mostly I felt like they'd made their choices and now had to live with the consequences. The church community rallied around me in ways I never expected. Sister Eunice organized meals for me for weeks. Pastor Williams publicly apologized for not seeing the abuse Floyd had been inflicting. The church even took up a collection to help with my legal fees, though Leonard had worked mostly pro bono because he believed in my case. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, working with survivors of domestic abuse. I'd share my story, show them that it was never too late to fight back, never too late to reclaim your life. Some of the women were in their 20s, some in their 70s. Age didn't matter. What mattered was finding the strength to say enough. One evening, about 6 months after Floyd's conviction, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset when a car pulled up. A young woman got out, maybe 30 years old, looking nervous. "Mrs. Washington?" she asked. "Yes?" "My name is Tasha Reynolds. You don't know me, but I saw your story on the news. I'm in a situation like you were. My husband controls everything: the money, the house, even when I can see my own family. He tells me I'm crazy, that I'm the problem. My own mother believes him over me." She started crying. "I don't know what to do, but I saw what you did, how you fought back. And I thought, maybe you could help me?" I stood up and walked down my porch steps. I put my arm around this young woman I'd never met before. "Come inside," I said gently. "Let's have some tea and you can tell me everything. Then we're going to call my lawyer and we're going to make a plan. You're not alone anymore, sweetheart. I've got you." As we walked into my house together, I realized this was why I'd gone through everything. Not just to save myself, but to be able to save others. To show women that they didn't have to accept abuse, didn't have to stay small, didn't have to let anyone, husband, family, society, tell them they were worthless. Over the next year, I helped 5 more women escape abusive situations. I connected them with Leonard Hayes, with the women's shelter, with resources they didn't know existed. I became an advocate, a voice for those who thought they had no voice. On the first anniversary of Floyd's conviction, I held a dinner party at my house. Loretta came down from Chicago. Claudette brought baby Grace, who was learning to walk. Tamika came with her kids. Sister Eunice and several other church members joined us. Leonard Hayes and his wife stopped by. Even Destiny, the nurse who'd encouraged me in the hospital, came after her shift ended. We filled my house with laughter and food and music and joy. We celebrated survival. We celebrated freedom. We celebrated the fact that we were all still here, still standing, still fighting. As I looked around my dining room table at all these beautiful faces, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. A year ago, I'd been alone, broken, ready to give up. Now I was surrounded by people who loved me, respected me, and saw my worth. Floyd had tried to destroy me. He'd spent 51 years systematically breaking me down, stealing from me, turning people against me. He'd made my life hell in every way possible, but he'd failed. I was still here. I was free. I owned my home, had money in the bank, had people who loved me, and had a purpose bigger than myself. Floyd was in prison, probably spending every day regretting his choices. Gerald and Andre had lost everything. They'd all thought they could control me forever. They were wrong. That night, after everyone left, I stood in my kitchen, and made myself a cup of tea. I looked around at my home, freshly painted in colors I'd chosen, decorated with furniture I liked, filled with photos of people who actually loved me. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Washington, my name is Kenya. I saw you speak at the women's shelter last week. I finally left my husband tonight. I took my kids and left. I'm scared, but I did it. Thank you for showing me it was possible. I smiled, tears running down my cheeks. This was it. This was the purpose I'd been searching for my whole life. I texted back. I'm proud of you, Kenya. You're going to be okay. You're going to be more than okay. You're going to be free. Call me tomorrow, and we'll make a plan. You've got this. As I set down my phone, I thought about everything I'd been through. The pain, the betrayal, the loss, the fight. Had it been worth it? I looked around my peaceful, beautiful home. Thought about the women I was helping. Thought about baby Grace, growing up knowing her grandmother was strong. Thought about Tamika, learning to be a better mother to her own children because she'd seen what happens when family turns against each other. Yes, it had all been worth it. Floyd made my life hell. He got my sister pregnant. He tried to take everything from me. But now he's in prison, and I'm free. Now I own everything he tried to steal. Now I help other women escape the same hell he put me through. Now I live every single day on my own terms, answering to no one, controlled by no one, diminished by no one. Now I'm Bernice Washington, survivor, advocate, and finally, after 73 years, completely, totally, beautifully myself. And that's the greatest revenge of all. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.